All right, everything went well in the videos. So yeah, improvisation. So definitely a lot of good things in there, and it's good to see and good to hear that you recognize when incorrect notes were played because you went and fixed stuff right away. So that's just part of the process. It happens. It happens. So maybe a new focus can be trying another scale shape next time, or maybe even a couple. So basically just let's try and get you playing in some other places besides just right up in here. So give that a try this week. And if you could just email me back or make a video talking about it, whichever is easiest for you. Give me some feedback on like how did it feel throughout the week? Were there any struggles? Did it come across as easy? Did you feel like you were struggling with coming up with ideas? Did it feel pretty natural? Just as much feedback as you can give me, the better. Especially because we're doing the video correspondence thing now, and we're just going to be like emailing each other back and forth. Stuff like the improv. Definitely give me as much feedback as you can. Same thing with any of the material. If you have like there are any struggles. If you could like let me know, well, what was the difficult parts, things that maybe you did to help you overcome it. But yeah, definitely lots of feedback now would be great, since I can't ask you on the Skype lesson now. But other than that, things are going well. I assume that you are still memorizing the scale stuff because there wasn't a video on that. That's fine. Keep on working that. So let's get to the newest legato. We got slides this week. All right. So here we go. 60 beats per minute. Everything is on the high E string. And we pick very little. We pick this note. We pick this note. And this note. So that's it. Everything else, hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. One 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, 180 coming up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And go to a little 240. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Repetition. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oof. Man, I was doing that when trying to work on this thing. Every time I repeat it, I wouldn't slide like I'm supposed to. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. All right. Next sweeping thing, kind of contemplated how we should do this because we have been playing everything twice and then moving on to the next shape. Man, doing the metronome with that's going to take a lot of time. So let's see how this goes. So every time we go to a new bar, it's a new arpeggio. So we're going up and down, and we're going to end with a slide here too. So something you can do, if you feel like you need to say the supplemental help, you can play each arpeggio twice. And maybe that's the thing to start off with. So instead of playing it how it's laid out right now, where you change every single time, ugh. could practice it like this. So, totally up to you. If you feel like you could use the extra help, definitely double up the bars. And, take it as long as you need to. Work on it as long as you need to. No need to stick within that time limit that's currently there. Because if you're going to double it up, you probably need a little bit more time to get the most out of it. So maybe like the first day or two, you double up the bars. And then go for the just one time each bar. Alright, speaking of one time each bar, let's give it a go. Back down to 60, count of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and... One, 2, 3. Whoops, now I'm doubling up the bar on accident. 1, 2, 3. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, not 4, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Alright, 240. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Do that better. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And repeats. So repeats, I do need to point out. So here, we're sliding from that G note up to the A. Well, we're not going to do that for the repeat stuff. We're going to ignore the slide when we do the repeat. So we'll pick the 8 like normal and then jump right back into that A minor. All right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's a bad note. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's really tough, making that thing precise at that speed. Because that's also like a speed where it's like it wants to be more sweep-ish, where it just kind of goes right through it. But still, yeah, anyway, it's like in that kind of medium pace for me where it's just kind of really odd. Anyway, there we go. Now, music theory. Okay. So I look back at the email stuff. So yeah, it looks like we covered that image with like the major scale formula going around the circle, looking at the modes, kind of laid out, just kind of going down like one after the next. And then also where the modes are laid out on one fretboard, one string, everything starting on F, and kind of showing how the intervals are different when you deviate from that major scale. So what we're going to do next is work with that major scale formula. So let me change a couple things here and get that on screen. heck did it, there it is. Okay. And let me reset the, actually let me zoom out a bit. Alright, that's fine. So I'm gonna like do a couple, just for example here. But then try your best not to copy what's here. I want you to go through and do it on your own too. Make sure you understand it well enough. Alright, so at the top of the page, the major scale formula is there, and the key of C is already done. So from C to D is a whole step, D to E is a whole step, E to F is a half step, F to G is the whole step, G to A whole step, A to B whole step, B to C half step. So the goal here, or the assignment, is you're going to use the whole steps and half steps, so that major scale formula, and you're going to fill in the notes for all these other major scales or major key. So when we talk about major scale or major key, I look at it as like the same thing. Because you say, if you ask like, well, what notes are in the key of C? C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Well, what notes make the C major scale? C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So it's the same thing. You come up with the same answer, right? It equals the same thing. So you're going to be putting in the notes that make the key of G or the G major scale. You're going to put in the notes for the key of D or the D major scale, and so on. So, some things to keep in mind. Here's important stuff. If you want to write down any notes, these are going to be good things to write down. All 7 note names have to be used in this stuff. So in the key of C, we have 1 C, 1 D, 1 E, 1 F, 1 G, 1 A. Oh boy, there we go. 1 A, 1 B. You might be like, oh wait, but that's 2 C's. Like, well, it's the same kind of C. So basically, we don't have a C and a C sharp. That's what I mean by one kind. One kind. So you're not going to have a C and a C sharp in the same major scale. Not possible. If you follow things correctly, you will not end up with something like a F sharp and a G flat, especially because they're the same note anyway. F sharp. Basically, you won't end up with a G flat and a G. You can't wind up with, let's say, oh, what's another good one? Like just a C and a C sharp, anything like that. So all 7 note names need to be accounted for, whether it's natural, meaning no sharp or flat. So like the key of C is all natural notes. None of them have a sharp or a flat. All natural notes. So when you're working with the other scales, the other keys here, there will be sharps or flats being used. Another important thing, if you do this right, you will never have a sharp and a flat note in a major scale. You can have naturals and sharps, flats in naturals. So basically you can mix the natural and the sharps, you can mix the natural and the flats, but the flats and sharps cannot be in a major key. They can't. It won't work, because then you'll end up with 2 kinds of notes. For example, what would be a good one? Let's say key of A, which would be A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. So what might happen is somebody could say they get your A, B, and then D flat, and a D, and then E, F sharp, A flat, A. Well, there's a problem with that. Let me come down here and type that out. So what the heck did I just say? So the note's A, and then I said B, C sharp. No, did I say as a D flat, D, then E, F sharp, A flat. Okay, so here, the proper name would be C sharp, not D flat. So this way we have one note name reserved for each spot in that major scale. So going back to intervals, so like interval number 1, number 2, number 3. So when you are working with this stuff, like interval number 1 has to have its own note name. Interval number 2 has to have its own note name. Interval number 3 needs to have its own note name. So it's a way of keeping things orderly, keeping things nice and neat. So the proper name for that, again, would be C sharp. So this way, because right now we have 0 C's, we have 2 different types of D's, and we have, well, actually here we have 2 different kinds of A's. We have an A flat and an A, and no G. So we're missing a C, we're missing a G. Now, when it comes to, say, exotic scales such as harmonic minor, sharp and flat notes do exist in that. For example, the A harmonic minor would be, let me change this over. A harmonic minor is A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp, back to A. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp, A. Now D harmonic minor, we have D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C sharp, and D. So still using all 7 note names, but in harmonic minor, yes, we will come across some instances of sharps and flats mixed together. But we are going to be focusing on major scale stuff, major keys, also known as your minor keys. Same thing, because we wind up at the exact same notes. Where we put the tonal center will determine whether it's considered major or minor in terms of songwriting, composition, stuff like that. But anyway, so yeah, the A major scale, in order for this to be correct, we would change the D flat to a C sharp. So it's the same tone, it's the same sounding note, but the name was wrong. And then we would need to change the A flat to a G sharp. And then that's what the A major scale would be. I'm deleting that. No cheating. So basically, let's say like we're on, and use your major scale stuff that you already know to help out. So you're basically, that's all you need right there to like check the major scale notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then that's the octave of the root note there. So basically your C Ionian scale shape, you start that anywhere. Anywhere. You just got to be the same shape though. So you got to visualize that pattern. It's like you're taking a little template or a stencil and moving it up and down the fretboard. So for that key of G, it would be this. Key of D would be this. Key of A would be this. Key of E, now you can start up here on the 12th fret, or you can do it open, but usually people get confused by starting it open because they're not used to doing stuff in an open position. But the open would be like this. Key of B, just go to the B note and start there. F sharp, C sharp. So, now that, what am I trying to say? So using that scale shape can be very helpful, but if you are too unfamiliar with the note names on the fretboard, that could be a bit of a problem. So big things to remember here is every natural note is a whole step apart except E and F, B and C, as shown right here. So right there at the half step, E and F, B and C. They are right next to each other. So E and F, B and C. Everything else is a whole step apart. So what you can do when you're like trying to figure out note names, if you need to, and you're going to use your guitar, just remember that everything is a whole step apart except for B, C, E, and F. So like if I'm going to go natural notes on the A string, A, whole step to B, half step to C, whole to D, whole to E, half to F, half step to G, whole step to A. Start with the open D string. D, whole step to E, half step to F, whole step to G, whole step to A, whole step to B, half step to C, whole step to D. Then your open G string. Whole step to A, whole step to B, half to C, whole to D, whole to E, half to F, whole to G. B string. You got B, half step to C, whole step to D, whole step to E, half step to F, whole step to G, whole step to A, whole step to B, half step to C. And then your high E string is the same as the low E string. We got E, half step to F, whole step to G, whole step to A, whole step to B, half step to C, whole step to D, whole step to E. So, if you end up using that major scale and you just want to double check the notes, you can use it that way. Just kind of how I did it. If you're confused on a note, like say maybe you land here on the 8th fret of the D string. You're like, well, what the heck is that? So you can start by going up the open D string, or start here and kind of go down. So you'd be like, okay, well, there's the D note there. So remember that 12th fret is where all the notes start over again. Your open E, and 12th fret is an E. The A string, 12th fret is the A note as well, and so on. So the D note here, you could go backwards. So like D, whole step down to C, half step to B, and then a half step down again. You're either going to have a B flat or an A sharp, depending on where you're at, what scale or key that you're using. I'm trying to figure out. All right. The other thing you can do is just, use, just be aware of when you're moving up whole steps and half steps, following that formula. So I can tell you this, something that'll help out. Top half of this page, besides the C scale, these are all keys that will contain sharps. The bottom half is all keys that will contain flats. So talked about the key of A. Let's do the key of E instead. So even without the guitar, you could also do it like this. You just got to remember what's a half step and a whole step, but I still want to use the guitar. And you can use it all on one string or whatever. Whatever works well for you to make this as easy as possible. And I apologize if I sound like I'm just rambling on and on here. I just want to make sure I cover as much as needed in case you don't know any of this stuff. So anyway, here we go. So key of E example, we got to go from E, whole step up, which is F sharp, whole step up from F sharp, G sharp. Then we go up a half step, which would put us on A. We go up a whole step from A, that would land us on B. We need to go up a whole step from B, which is C sharp, because if we went up a half step it would be C, but we're going up a whole step, so that is C sharp. Then we're going to go up another whole step, so D sharp, and then a half step brings us back to E. So I can tell you this, the first note and last note of these scales, they have to be the same. They will always be the same, always be the same. So I'm going to delete that. Whoops, too far. Okay, let's come down here to one of these guys. Let's look at, let's do E flat. So something else you can do is kind of like make a little skeleton. And you can just like input notes right away. So E is the first note in. You know the next note has to be F something, then it has to be G something, A something, B something, C something, D something, and we know the last note's E flat, has to be. So they can just go through and check things. Like, okay, well, is E flat to F a whole step? Yes, it is. So we leave that alone. And then we can come down here, so we're not going too high up. And then we go, is F to G a whole step? Yes, it is. So we leave that alone. Then, half step. Is G to 8 a half step? No, it is not. It's a whole step. But we're going up a half step. So that means it has to be A flat. It's not going to be G flat because we just used the G. It's got to be A flat. So we can just go up here, put in, we're going to use a lowercase b for the flat symbol. And then, all right, from there, our A flat, we have to go up a whole step again. Is that B natural? Nope, that's B flat. So we got to put in a flat symbol here. Whoops, do that, okay. And then we go up a whole step from B flat. Is that C? Absolutely. So we leave that alone. We go up a whole step from C. Is that D? Yes, it is. And then we have to go up a half step. Yes, E flat. So that's another thing you can do. You just like type in all the notes, all 7 notes, and then determine is it a natural, sharp, or flat. Remember, you will never have sharps and flats be in the same key when it comes from a major scale. So fill that in best you can. If you have any questions with it, let me know. And whenever it's done, just send it on over. I'll let you know how it looks. Okay. I think that covers it all. Any questions? Let me know. All right. I'll see you again in your new videos.